What's going on, everyone? This is Information Creep issue 11, and we're going to
Hello.
continue where we left off with More Than Meets the Eye, 31. So I'm joined by Walter. What's up, Walter? And see you later, Walter? Maybe? And Spiros. So what's up, Spiros?
Hey, not too much. Just lazy Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, man, it's nice, isn't it? It's the first Sunday I've had off in a while, so I'm enjoying it. I guess we'll see if Walter pops back in. Yeah, so kind of picking up where we left off. The Autobots in, I guess, Autobot Megatron. They were all leaving the Lost Light in a panic because everything was disappearing. But where we pick up is, let's see, it looks like it was a long time ago, or 2 years ago, I should say, which that's a long time. And it shows like this kind of party that Drift is at, and there's all these hanging light fixtures, and he's there with Riptide and is it Pipes? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Pipes.
Yep.
And something I do want to make note of just real quick. They're there to buy a spaceship, per Rodimus, and Pipes is like, well, how are you going to pay for it? And Drift pulls out his gold currency card, and Pipes is like, oh, dude, where'd you get that kind of cash? And Drift is like, there's 3 things you should never ask. So, I don't know, I thought it was funny. Like, what's with Decepticons being, like, loaded? You know what I mean? I thought it was pretty funny. So they come across, I guess these are just like regular non-affiliated Cybertronians, and they start doing hand talks, and they made an agreement to buy the ship, and I think Drift, let's see, yeah, he spent 1 billion Shanix, which I'm guessing is $1 billion, on this ship. So Drift is loaded. Like, I think he's Cyclonus loaded, but he's still pretty loaded. And they were like, well, what's going to be a good name for the ship? Because they wanted to rename it because these guys they bought it from called it the U-1. And then, you see all these, I'm assuming these are more hanging lights. At first I thought they were like fireworks, but either way, I guess. But it shows that they're at this thing called Festival of the Lost Light. Or the Festival of Lost Light, I should say. So that's how they got their name. Back in modern times, it shows everyone on board the Rod Pod. Ironically, like, Rodimus isn't on the Rod Pod, which I think, like, that kind of trips me out a little bit. Like, Megatron's on it, so that may have been where the hostility was coming from. But, let's see, I'm trying to get to a list of all the people that are on the Rod Pod. Here we go. We got Megatron, our mascot, Crosscut. Skids, Gears, Blaster, Getaway, Nautica, Ammo, Huffer, Chrome Dome, Swerve, Hoist, Nightbeat, Riptide, Tailgate, and Dipstick. Anybody remember that guy from Last Stand of the Wreckers?
Yeah.
And
He's the guy who.
What's up?
He's the guy who the new recruits almost blew up.
Yeah. And he was just like, you think you guys are coming back? That's cute. And Cyclonus, Hound, Ratchet, and Highbrow. So a lot of people who haven't had very much screen time, but they're kind of all in a panic trying to figure everything out, and then the lights flicker and Crosscut disappears. No, that's our guy. And at that point, Tailgate tells everyone not to panic. Got this. And he's got this little pistol, this little Nerf gun pointed on Megatron. And let's see, he was telling me, he's like, I'm not afraid to use this. He was like, well, if you got that thing pointed at me, you better. And then that's whenever Megatron draws on him. And then, let's see, Riptide draws on Megatron. So you got a good Mexican standoff thing going on here. And Cyclonus is trying to get in the middle and keep everyone from losing their cools. At which point, some more cools are lost, and they spot Ravage, who we saw in the last issue, but he was kind of in hiding. Revealed himself, rather. And it looks like Hound pointed him out. At that point, is this when the lights flicker again?
Yeah, they flicker right after
Oh,
and Swerve have their little exchange.
right. And so not only did they lose one, but it looks like they lost six. So now we've got Megatron, Skids, Getaway, Nautica, Ammo, Swerve, Hoist, Nightbeat, Riptide, Tailgate, Dipstick, Cyclonus, and Ratchet. People are just mysteriously disappearing, man. Stuff's getting a little out of hand. So then Nightbeat goes to trying to figure stuff out. So he's trying to draw some parallels between the people that are disappearing and the people that are still left behind. He's like, all right, so who was forged and who was cold constructed? And some people took offense, and some people were just like, well, whatever, I was constructed cold, so that kind of, shoots your theory down, because some people that were left behind were forged, so that was pretty cool. And let's see, then the lights, I believe the lights, no, the lights don't flicker yet, but we get kind of an update as to who was constructed cold and who was forged, which it's a page, right? It takes up a page. So
Well, we also get a little insight into MTOs, made to order Cybertronians.
that's right, because wasn't Getaway at MTO?
Yeah, and actually was it second page, the second crew page, or okay, it would be
Yeah.
the third crew page. They list everybody's designation, whether they were forged or constructed cold, with the exception of Megatron, who refuses to divulge such information
Which
because
I think we'll find out more on that later. Maybe.
yes, there is a plot point around that later on in the series, which we'll definitely visit at a later time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
It's pretty interesting that a lot of the made-to-order bots were created specifically in response to battles. So they actually touch on, if Megatron hadn't started the war, that a lot of Cybertronians would have been created. They actually, in a twisted way, owe their lives to Megatron.
Including Getaway. Getaway's his life to Megatron the most, and I feel that's very important to point out at this
Yep.
point in time. So, and if I recall correctly, I think Getaway mentioned what his full name was, because they gave them, I think they just kind of gave them names, but they were of whatever particular battle they were in. So Getaway's
Right.
full name is Getaway of the Corcapsia Incursion.
I don't know in front of me, but sure, it's
I
up there.
think that's how you. I think that's how you pronounce
It's
it. I
actually
don't know.
right here. They say it the page before everyone starts talking about what their quote unquote last names are. I love Dipstick because this is stick of Operation Doom Patrol.
So fitting. You can tell he's
He's
super
just
embarrassed by it
burying
too.
his face in his hands.
Let's see. I noticed there's a lot of that kind of going on in this issue. Like Riptide, is kind of sort of in the same boat. And Nightbeat's pretty bent out of shape about all this. And well, I mean, they're all kind of bent out of shape. Everyone's trying to figure out what all's going on. Nightbeat's trying to think of another kind of common, thing that maybe some of these people have in common. And then the lights flicker again, and we're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're left with 8. So even more disappearing. Among those disappearing, though, was Cyclonus. And Tailgate, of course, being, panic button, kind of freaked out where he was where he went. And Nightbeat's just he's just examining the sword because the great sword was left behind, which I think is important to kind kind of solving the mystery, like why out of everything was the sword left behind. But of course we'll get to that later. Then we see a gigantic eyeball, and it's a very large Verity Carlo, because Ultra Magnus is projecting his hollow matter avatar into the Rod Pod, and he's saying, "Well, I'm pretty much it. Like, I'm all that's left on this shuttle. All the other shuttles have disappeared." And then Magnus starts to disappear. So, Spiros, moment of silence for your boy.
Definitely. But there's a interesting, well, not interesting, I guess. It's a cool little homage to some artwork from, I want to say, not Infiltration. What was it? What was the one after Infiltration? Was that Escalation or?
Infiltration. Yeah, I think it was Escalation, and then after that came Devastation.
Yeah, sounds about right. But
Yeah.
there's a panel in Escalation where Verity was looking up at Megatron, and the roles are kind of reversed here, with Megatron looking at a giant Verity. So it's a cool little nod.
Yeah, that is pretty neat.
Yeah.
So let's see. Looks like Nightbeat is trying to figure out some more kind of common things going on here. So he's checking out like everyone's, I guess, like anything that they may have done, or any kind of special gifts, or what they did prior to the war and all that. So just to point out a couple, like Skids being an outlier. Nautica is like a possible outlier. Chrome Dome and Nemo Surgeon. Swerve Spark type Ferrum positive. So
You're right, because they all have different spark types, kind of like blood types, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you have like Nightbeat is isomeric positive. So and I mean it's cool because like, despite the terrible, terrible art, which, I mean, I didn't like...
You don't like the art in this book? In this particular issue?
It's so, like, what is his name? Attilio Rowe. His art is just so generic. Like, it's the same body type with, like, kibble.
Different heads, or different kibble,
yeah. So, I mean... like everybody has like the same, proportions, and like even Tailgate, who he's got like some of the wonkiest proportions with like his big torso and then his tiny legs and his like
his fucking adorable legs.
Yeah, like they're like this. There's this one page right here.
Is it with him staring out the window?
No, it has Hoist, Skids, Riptide, and I think it's Ammo. Like they're all just standing there, and they all just look alike. And I mean, it's just, I mean, it's the when Milne's not doing the art, it's jarring to me. So. And, yeah, I mean, I probably couldn't do any better, but that's why I'm a critic and not a creator.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Like, it's not, I don't think bad as, God, who was the artist on RID during the Dark Cybertron stuff? Like, you weren't there that
it
week.
Was Rojo.
Okay, so this is the same, like, that drew, like, Prowl's ridiculous little bitty
Starscream with his reflector helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this isn't as bad. Like, now that you mention it, I can kind of see it in, like, Ratchet's horns, but it's not as bad as, like, the way he drew Prowl. Like, the way he drew Prowl was just awful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, look at Megatron. Like, his helmet is round at the top, and then what would be the front with any other artist is like kind of a crown ridge kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, not a fan. Just throwing it out there. Also, before we move on from this issue, because we're coming up on the tail end of the issue before the mystery is resolved, but in the flashback when Drift pipes in, I almost called him dipshit. Riptide.
You're not wrong though. You're definitely not wrong.
Yeah, when Drift and Riptide are getting the lost light, Pipes is saying something, and Drift says, "Seriously, Pipes, don't make me put my foot down." And it's just like, oh.
With just how
Right.
passive Drift has been, it seems. At least,
Well, no,
especially like at that time.
It's just right in the. It's right in the feels because
Oh my God!
Overlord stomped him to death.
It just hit me. Oh my God!
It's like really James.
Oh,
Like it's bad enough you took Pipes away from us, but then you have to just pour salt in the wound.
that is some super clever writing.
Okay, seriously, while I'm on my super critical art tear, the panel where Ravage is revealed, like,
Yeah.
doesn't like a jaguar. Looks like no,
Does
it
look like
looks
a dog? Like a
I mean,
giant dog?
kind of.
Oh.
Now that you mention, like,
Maybe that was intentional. Maybe we're not giving this artist enough credit.
nah, I'm not gonna concede that point. But I mean, there's a lot of world building in this issue, which I like the hand speak stuff and the MTOs, and like,
And then we even the spark type, thing kind of going on. It delves more into like that Cybertronian biology, which that's something that I like.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just like because for so many years it's just been bad Decepticons versus good Autobots, and there's never been anything past that. And now we have different methods of construction, different sparks, and like it's kind of funny because the MTOs. I might be off base here. Like in season 2 of the G1 cartoon, you just had people randomly showing up, like new characters. So like the
Showing up,
MTOs,
shooting their guns, saying their name, and leaving.
right? And then like MTOs, they're just made for specific battles. So I don't know. I drew a parallel there, but it might have just been in my own twisted mind. So
Right. So to kind of, I guess, wrap up the mystery, not only are we kind of checking out Cyclonus Sword, but Nightbeat was kind of wondering why Ratchet left his hands behind and why they were blue. So then they were like, well, those aren't Ratchet's hands, those are actually Pharma's. He took them from him. And then, let's see, Nightbeat asked, I think Nightbeat started asking, let's see.
well,
Yeah.
He takes note that Riptide wasn't on the Lost Light prior to their return to Cybertron for the Dark Cybertron event. So
Yeah. And then Riptide tells the story about how he got shit beat out of him at
Yeah.
Festival of the Lost Light. And then whenever Nightbeat starts smiling and laughing, then Getaway was like, and the joke is, and that's whenever Nightbeat kind of points it out. He's just like, all right, I'll do it. And Megatron, being the bundle of joy that he is, he's like, well, you failed. And Nightbeat was like, what? He's like, you solved the mystery, but only after everyone was taken. You were too slow to save them. And Nightbeat, like he doesn't deal that way. He doesn't process that way. He's all about that mystery.
It's all
So,
about detective work. It's all about detective.
right. Absolutely. But what we've
really,
oh, go ahead.
really quick before before we move on. The education that MTOs get, like the quick 10-step, like I think it started out as a 12-step program, and then as the war escalated, they like lessened the steps to where it was like a 10-step program, where they received critical information, and then a series of tests to make sure they were world ready, and
This is how you
like
this is how you shoot. This is how you fuck. Like, and then that's it.
Yeah, but I like how like Riptide is basically painted out to be like an idiot. Like he was one of the later MTOs, so he got like the least steps.
Oh man, poor Riptide. Poor, or as you say, poor dipshit, right? So, they find out that the common denominator between the people that are disappearing and the people that were left behind is that those disappearing were on the Lost Light before the first time they left before they came back for Dark Cybertron, and those that did not disappear showed up at a later time. They weren't a part of that initial crew. They were either stragglers that were picked up along the way or that joined after the Dark Cybertron event. So they find the Lost Light, which has now reappeared, but it is torn to complete shit and shambles. And they made the note that they were not the first to arrive. So the Lost Light has definitely taken a beating. Looks like it's cut in half and missing some pieces and some parts. Which we find out a little more about in issue 32, which is the next one.
Oh, and really quick, something that not a lot of people would pick up on, unless they lived in New York or they followed James Roberts closely on Twitter. The location of the, I guess what we call the Lost Light 2, the broken, fucked up Lost Light, Ofsted 14. It's actually a reference to something in the UK called the... Where is it? I just saw it. Sorry, I'm looking it up as we're talking. The Office of Standard and Education Children's Service Skills. And they actually talk about it like lecture worlds and stuff. And Cyclonus makes a... It's a comment because Highbrow talks about tuition fees and curriculum, and he says the commodification of knowledge I find offensive. So it was kind of like that, how education is something that they're trying to make inaccessible to lower class or poorer people. So James Roberts always likes to sprinkle his personal politics into the comic. That's an interesting little side note for our listeners.
Nice.
It sounds like taking a pop. Basically, he's telling the truth.
Yeah. So, issue 32 starts out. I believe this is Milne is back on this, so the artwork is a lot more acceptable by all of our standards.
Up to par.
Yeah. So, all this like red gunk, and we'll talk about that shortly. But just know there's all this like red gunk kind of flying around. They made mention that the hull integrity was like still intact. I guess because the outer shields were still, the quantum shield generator or whatever was still working. I don't know, something in science. And so they all decide to make a trip to this kind of new Lost Light. Also, I should probably have mentioned that that particular rod pod was not the one that was on the first Lost Light. It was the rebuilt one because the original one, I believe it got destroyed during Dark Cybertron during that whole arc, or it just got damaged or whatever. So that's the only reason that one stuck around.
Also, the our fearless crew that has survived the disappearance surmise that it's a lost light from the future because they think that future Rodimus was often.
Yeah. So they get out and they're checking out the lost light, and then they see a lot of dead bodies, like very brutally beaten up and destroyed bodies.
But before that, they land. Sorry,
Oh, it's fine.
you're gonna hate me.
No, we're
But
good.
before that, they landed into on the Lost Light was Swerves, but
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot.
things are quite amiss because it doesn't look like Swerves, and they find a poster of our buddy Crosscut for a new play that he's written called Information Creep.
Yay! Fucking round of applause for Crosscut. All right, good deal.
And I like that. Is it in here where they say like his other play, like My Shovel Your Face?
I don't
'Cause-
know. I don't know if it's in this issue.
Yeah, but the poster for Information Creep shows Crosscut holding a shovel, which I think was a big miss on Dr. Wu's part for
I know.
giving us a shovel accessory for Generations Crosscut.
You know, I'm sure. Like, you know how like there's a lot of like, you know, with like 3D printing, like 3D like programs for that. Like, there's a lot of just designs, like free designs that people throw out there. I'm sure someone could just take a design of a shovel and just scale down or scale it up to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'm gonna try that out. 'Cause
I'm sure if you dive deep enough on Shapeways, you can find a shovel for Crosscut.
Yeah, find one that would be good for like 6-inch Marvel Legends figures or something like that. I think it'd be solid. So.
Oh, one thing.
By the by.
One is it's my job to constantly keep the show from progressing forward. Is there's a panel where Getaway is talking to Riptide. And like, did you touch that, or did you do that on purpose? Like, onto the red goo that's ensnaring the future Lost Light, and Riptide's like, no, why would I do that on purpose? And Getaway's like, because he's just one of those don't push the button types. Don't push the button? Why not? Press his button, boom.
Dude, this was when Getaway was such a lovable character. You know,
Yeah.
Bomb.
Such.
He was a badass in Dark.
He was a badass during the Tyrus thing too.
Yeah, it was like. Dude,
He was.
Hey, Walter, your mic, you sound very distant and quiet, so just want to let you know that.
I'm right here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good, man.
Okay. Getaway, as a character reference from back in the day, Marvel, was a badass, and technically he has no known weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of they kind of dubbed him the escape artist, didn't they? And he was part of the Autobot.
Power Masters.
Well, no. In this universe, he's part of like the special ops group that Prowl put together.
Yeah.
Post Wreckers. So.
But fighting skills are all the and I'll say like this: he's badass.
Let's see. Okay, so after the event at Swerves, they're kind of going and still kind of checking out things, and let's see.
Ravage put in a clinic and smelling things, and he finds.
Well, before we get to Ravage finding stuff, there was an interaction with Ravage and Nautica. I believe this was.
Oh yeah.
And it's fucking Nautica. She's just like someone said, you know, Megatron. I don't think don't think people like your new friend, talking about how Ravage attacked them, on the Rod Pod in the last issue. And Nautica just kind of kneels down and starts rubbing Ravage's head. And maybe she was just scared. Is that right, Puppet? So I thought that shit was hilarious. And Ravage was not having it.
Ravage,
Did you say she? Did you say Ravage?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Nautica said.
Nautica's not being a good, 2015, 2016 person. She's assuming Ravage's gender, so shame on her for that. I guess that's why she got triggered and took a swipe at her face.
Well, that and she called him a pet, and with some of that Ravage backstory that we got, pre Dark Cybertron, I don't think he likes that shit too much. And that's whenever Megatron was like, "Ha, Ravage isn't a pet," and Skids is like, "That's right, he's the enemy." So, but I just thought it was hilarious because Nautica, just like, here we go. I'm gonna be that pre-2015 guy. Just like most chicks, they love cats. That's just all there is to it. Not saying guys don't love cats. I like cats, but and it's like puppies too. Like you always wanna pet them. Every time I'm walking. Like, or I'm in a public spot and someone's got their pet, as long as it's not a service dog, because that shit's kind of, you don't really want to, like, fucking mess with a service dog. But just like pets, I'm just like, hey puppy, hey kitty, whatever. I like to talk to them.
So,
I want to say something right quick. Pretty good, because even through the cartoons and comics, they never mentioned if Ravage was a male or female.
Well,
yeah, no, but Megatron refers specifically after Nautica's faux pas, so to speak. Megatron says he, so
yeah, okay.
It might be the default that all Transformers refer to themselves as, but
well, it could be, Beast Wars could have played into that, being a Russian dude.
Yeah,
so.
Which I do read Ravage with a bit of a Russian accent because of Beast Wars.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta remember, he was what was it? He was granted amnesty and he retired. So, plus they reformatted him.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I bring up the whole like he/she thing. Of course, like, this was I think this was still in 2014, so that wasn't really an issue. Or I mean, it was probably, but I don't think not as big as it got, in these recent years or whatever. But there's a lot of like Beast Wars love in the UK and like Canada. Not and I mean obviously, here in America too, but I think it's more so, overseas and in Canada. Just it seems that way to me for some reason. I feel there's a lot more Beast Wars fans over there. So maybe, Roberts was a fan and he was like, all right, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I didn't know about Beast Wars popularity in the UK, but I figured Canada, because I think they were getting the episodes on YTV before we were. So
yeah,
Beasties.
Beasties. So the group decides to split up. I believe Nightbeat and Nautica go one way, and then you got Megatron, Riptide, Ravage, Skids, and I'm sure Getaway go another way. Or Getaway maybe went with Nautica and Nightbeat. It doesn't. Ravage sniffs out some pretty damaging things. We see Menace Ambus with a nice chunk taken out of his okay, yeah, this is Getaway. It looks like it's Getaway holding him. Taken out of his torso, and you see the Magnus armor with same. Looks like it would have been the same blast. So
right.
Skids, upon like examining it, mentions that it came from a fusion cannon. So he immediately jumped to Megatron, who was already kind of suspect prior to them actually getting on this ship, and Skids started making his case, and Megatron, well, it couldn't be because after I rendered, Prime made me burn it, and that's whenever Skids was like, well, it could be replaced. So, which is true. I mean, you can get a fusion cannon, I guess. They're on every corner.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the panel where it shows Optimus and it looks like Jetfire is the shadowy figure in the background,
Yeah.
and Megatron burning the fusion cannon. It's actually a callback to issue 7 when we first met the DJD, and or it might have been issue 8 when Tarn is talking about Towards Peace and how the war, or no, it's issue 7. He's saying how the war won't be over until the galaxy is so peaceful that Megatron can't fathom the need for his fusion cannon. And in that issue, it showed Megatron holding his fusion cannon over a swimming pool. So another cool little nod to previous issues in the series.
Which it shows. It also shows, in my opinion, that like Prime was Prime paid attention to a lot of the things that Megatron did. You know, like I like looking at this. It feels to me that Prime, read Towards Peace.
Yeah, that could be.
So, and the whole knowing your enemy thing too, I guess. But yeah, that's also what I kind of gathered from it, which was cool. But Megatron kind of came to a stunning realization. He was like, I didn't even know that there was a Minimus Ambus until you just told me. So, he's starting to freak out thinking, that, okay, this is a future version of, of the Lost Light that he was on, that he was co-captain of. Then we kind of get some kind of character building with Nightbeat and Nautica here. Mostly with Nightbeat being super personal. Asking about her Amica, or no, he asked about her Conjunxendura, and I think that's whenever she explained like what Amica Endura is, which, if I'm not, like, what I gathered from it was like basically a best friend.
Yeah, Amica Endura.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like a best friend. It's not quite up to Conjunxendura.
Yeah. No kissy face, but definitely hanging out a lot. Definitely hanging out a lot.
Maybe a lot of awkward hugs.
Yeah. So they stumble across something worth noting, and it's Brainstorm's briefcase. And it says like the locks are damaged, and Nightbeat was like, "Well, I'm gonna open it up on the count of 3." Like, before he opens it up, though, it shows where Megatron and Ravage are locked in a store cupboard. So pretty awkward. I mean, I guess it's better than one of the barracks, or not barracks, the jail cell. But this is where Megatron and Ravage have a pretty touching heart-to-heart. And Ravage finally lashes out on him, and he's pissed because he feels betrayed.
Call it like, wait a minute, Dakota, call it like you see it. He pimp slapped him, okay? He slapped the shit out of him.
Yeah, dude, he didn't use no baby powder either. He
slapped the shit out of him, and I'm like,
he gives him the old one too, because he comes at him with the left, and then he comes at him with the right, and Megatron blocks that, and then he grabs his left paw. So, I mean,
Ravage makes an important note here. He asked, he said, "Is it Shadow Play?" Which is a callback to the actual Shadow Play story arc. With the Nemo surgeons and the thing that Treppin and the Council were kind of running. So, very interesting there. And that's whenever Ravage, I believe, he breaks it to. He tells Megatron, he's like, I was kind of sitting here, basically, if you really had changed and you really weren't about this, I was supposed to kill you, basically. And, that's whenever Megatron was like, what are you guys doing? What is the Decepticon cause now? And Ravage, tells them that they're carrying on without him and that Galvatron has plans. And that's whenever Megatron was just kind of like, you put Galvatron in charge? He seemed sort of perplexed by it.
He's on, get out. He snapped on him.
Well then, off you go.
Yeah, he snapped on him. I'm like, dude, he's like, you guys put this moron in charge? That's basically what he's saying.
Well, I love Ravage's response. Like, it also shows how loyal the Decepticons are to Megatron, and also like their just general cutthroat nature, because he's like, the moment you tell me that this is a trick, that all that makes part of a larger plan, then Galvatron's gone. He's like, he's a caretaker and understudy, nothing more. And Megatron even mentions it. He's like, yes, Decepticon loyalty. I'd forgotten how toxic it can be.
Yeah, I mean, and he's had a lot of time to kind of see these things, and how they were and all that. But it was very kind of very heartfelt exchange between Megatron and Ravage. You get several panels of of dialogue. I don't want to spoil it too much for any potential readers out there, but after they've kind of had this talk, the lights turn on, and then they see that they've been sitting in a room with Ratchet, Drift, and
Hound.
Oh, is that Hound? Okay, I couldn't tell because the top of his head was gone.
But really quick before we move on, like Milne's facial expressions are like second to none.
Oh,
like,
yeah, you're right.
Even with Ravage, like the way he makes Ravage emote, like, is great. And going back to the panel where Skids told Megatron about Minimus Ambus, like the shocked Megatron face is like probably my favorite face that Milne draws out about Megatron.
Yeah, it's good. It's more than just frowny face or smirking evil face that we've kind of gotten out of all Megatrons prior to.
Or his damn Joker face that like
yeah.
MP6 gave us.
Dude, speaking of, just to kind of get off on a tangent because we're good at that. Are there any like MP scale like reflectors, like for like the MP36? Not I don't know the big 1:1 camera.
I want to say that Make Toys came with like a prop reflector, but don't quote me on that because I'm not really into the MP game, so I don't really pay attention to them outside of acknowledging they exist and who makes them.
Right. And see, I'm not either. It's just, I bought MP Megatron because, I like Megatron. And, he has that face, and I want to be able to pose him with that reflector camera.
Yeah, doing the All Hail Megatron cover, the Killing Joke.
There's a lot of decent cover homages in the IDW Transformers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, given that Transformers was a Marvel property back in the day. But hey, really quick, I don't know if we've talked about this in shows that I missed because I'm terrible about going back and listening to shows. But did we ever talk about like voices we hear when we read the comics?
Yes.
I know me and Walter did, but I don't think you were there.
No, he wasn't there, but want to know something? What was I about to say?
You did it for Marvel, but not for IDW?
No. Because with Marvel, back in the day, for Marvel, when I was just getting into Transformers, I would read the issues over and over again. You know what I'm saying? And until I was waiting for that next issue to come on out.
Yeah.
Because what we saw in the cartoon, they had red eyes. In the comic book, they had yellow eyes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think based off that, a lot of that had to deal with the toys, this and that, until... What changed it to where they finally went to red eyes? Was it the movies that changed it? Yeah, the movies.
Yeah, probably.
They just said, screw it, we're going to go to red eyes. But, well, you know what?
Or was it G2?
Generation 2 did. They changed. Because when Megatron became Tank.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember, I've got those 4 issues of the G.I. Joe book whenever Cobra Commander rebuilt him, and I remember him having red eyes in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because like I was an avid G.I. Joe comic reader back in the day.
Oh, especially the Hammer run.
Yeah, I mean, just like because I was a Transformers Marvel G1 reader, like since they continued it past the cartoon, and I was also a huge G.I. Joe fan. So when like Megatron showed up in G.I. Joe, because I mean this was before the internet or anything, so like there was no previews or anything like that, or like there's no message board, so nothing got spoiled. Like, that was a genuine, like, oh fuck moment for me when you saw Megatron's, like, tattered, just, like, wrecked body attacking the Cobra Stronghold.
Right. That was Destro's castle.
Yeah,
And,
that
yeah.
was
He confused it. He confused the shape shifting of the castle to an actual to
right.
another Transformer.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, because Destro being the Renaissance man and so far ahead of his time was like, oh yeah, shape-shifting castles, let's do it.
Yeah, and that was also a very interesting time for just G.I. Joe storytelling in general, because you had Destro, and we're kind of on the run from Cobra Commander. You had Scarlet, kind of basically being an implant, into the Cobra thing going on there. For the whole Ninja Force thing. She left, Snake Eyes super pissed off, and like Snake Eyes had to believe it, and it was all done, like it was all a kind of ploy by, was it General Hawk and Duke, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she was so deep undercover, like they didn't even let Snake Eyes know that. Like, and didn't Snake Eyes like stab Scarlet?
Yeah.
He stabbed her.
Yeah.
Stabbed her.
Which kind of took any doubts that I think they would have had that Cobra did have, and kind of put them to rest. Which I think it was either Slice or Dice, or Slice and Dice. They still kind of had their their suspicions, and then whenever the Autobots showed up and all that, I think that's whenever Scarlet officially blew her cover and got Dr. Biggles Jones out of there, and the rest is history.
Dr. Biggles Jones, which was one of the strangest names in comics to me.
Sidney Biggles
I'm
Jones.
I'm like, why the hell would you call her Biggles? Like,
that's one of those Latvian names.
Just a note to our listeners, we're actually experiencing a format change, and we'll be doing a G.I. Joe podcast going forward.
We'll just alternate between G.I. Joe and Transformers. Oh man, if eventually I do want to, whenever we finally get caught up and we're on like the Lost Light and Optimus Prime issues, I do want to kind of talk a little bit about that bad Crown Jewel comic, just because Skywarp's in it. But we'll get there when we get there, I guess.
Wait, which
the G.I. Joe, like not a real American hero. It's just they call it the Crown. I call it the Crown Joe, the Jewel G.I. Joe, because it's got Crown Jewel of the Hasbro universe written all over every cover.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, there's not too much Transformers related going on there, but since all these books kind of sort of like tie in a little closer, whenever we do get to that point, we'll make some note of what happens, there with that, and like Revolutionaries and Mask and all that. So
yeah.
But in this room, back to issue 32.
Back to the present.
Yeah. Oh no. You said you were going to talk about like asking like what voices.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So while we're off on our tangent. Like for Autobot Megatron, like I never read him as like G1 Megatron's voice. I almost read it as a like I hear a softer animated Megatron voice, like the Corey Burton Megatron. Just because like he like got this regal sound to him, in animated, and it's just like it's so well spoken, and the way that Roberts writes him, like I hear it more in that than in the raspy Frank Welker G1 voice, because like the raspy Frank Welker G1 voice doesn't say stoic to me.
Yeah.
It says more like cartoon villain. So I mean that's one thing. I mean, you know, whether you read it like that or not, you know, I couldn't care less because I'm me. But
I'll be honest. I don't read him as G1 Megatron either. If you remember, like at the end of the Beast Hunters movie, which was like the end of Transformers Prime, like the whole end of that. After Megatron came to that realization that, you know, of what it's like to be, you know, essentially a slave, how he kind of it was a softened voice, but it was still that Welker voice, and that's how I read it.
Hmm.
You know, not quite as.
Full.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say full disclosure. I haven't seen Transformers Primes past like episode 5.
Oh man, it's a good series. Like I'm sure you've heard that enough, but you know, whenever you get the spare time, worth a watch. But you know, whenever you do get to that kind of, I think it was called, I don't know, I don't know, it was Predacon Rising. It was something.
Yeah.
It was just the Beast Hunters movie.
It was called Predacon Rising.
It was Predacon Rising. I'm cognizant of that much of the
Okay.
series.
Yeah, just whenever you get to the end of it, just like that kind of speaking voice that he had.
So really quick, I'll save this question for later because I don't want to spoil anything. Time with some dead Autobots in a room with 2 Decepticons, or one former Decepticon.
Yeah. Let's see. Looks like we've got some drill holes in Ratchet's face.
Yeah.
And you know, Ravage was like, well, what happened here? And that's whenever Megatron was like, well, maybe they can tell us. And, you know, Megatron has a lot of talents. And, you know, being a, you know, performing autopsies is just one of those many talents. You know, he was great.
Detective.
Yeah. And Ravage was like, well, they're dead. They can't speak. And he was like, yeah, but their mouths can still move. And it looks like he pulls out a brain module. And you know, back to that kind of the way Alex said about Megatron, you know, with the, like, Megatron himself is blacked out. You can see his eyes, but it kind of adds to the gravity of the situation of him holding this brain module with all this pink shit coming off of it. And, you know, Ravage kind of repeatedly asked him, you know, who did this? And, you know, Megatron paused, and that's when he said the biggest monsters of all. Back to that, we got Nightbeat thinking about opening the briefcase, and I think Nautica. Anyways, Nautica took her little wrench to it and looked at it, but it was empty. It was completely empty. But for what it's worth, he does hold on to it. Then we see poor Tailgate, who looked like he had a rod thrown through him.
Yeah. One thing, because I must interrupt, it is one of my favorite pages in this comic. Only because the subtlety of the background, because when I first read it, I was confused with the disjointed conversation. But if you look at
the numbers,
if you look at the numbers of the elevator, it kind of clues you in onto what the nature of the briefcase is.
Yeah, it really does. Because I remember my first time reading it. Like whenever I saw that, I ended up actually reading it in order because you know you've got 2 through 6, or is it 1? Yeah, you got 1 through 6, but it's like the order it's presented is like 6, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 2, which is very interesting. But like you said, we'll get to it when we get to it. But I honestly thought it was an error. Whenever I was reading it, I was like, dude, did my page get like fucked up when it was printed or something? But very clever indeed.
Also of note for any readers who want to know the order of reading those panels, in case you just want to get the flow of the conversation, they are going down. So you would read it from 6 to 1 chronologically.
You know, that makes more sense too.
Yeah, because I just read it 1 through 6, and I'm like, wait a minute, and then I like flip back to the earlier page, and they started on level 8, so they're actually going down. So
Okay. See, yeah, man. Whenever I was reading it, I remember just being like, well, fuck this. I don't care what they're talking about. Because it did confuse the shit out of me. Like, that was way too over my head. Like, the first time around. I was like, nope, can't handle it. Can't do it. Too dumb. I'm too dumb.
like stupid British syntax, like, oi,
Seriously, man.
tea and crumpets. I'm gonna speak backwards, like.
Right. We also see here where Nautica and Nightbeat find Overlord's body, but not his head. So, and he's still in the slow-mo chamber, as I call it.
But we also get a really good look at Vault Mode, which looks super familiar.
It's very Rodimus-like. You know,
I wonder if some enterprising third party might remold their Rodimus toy into a getaway.
one that is actually kind of fond of remolding at that.
Yes.
So
One that gets an awful lot of hate on a certain podcast on the Cool Network. Shots fired.
come on,
Shots fired.
get down.
You say
No, it's nothing.
It's just
Yeah.
a
I
just a.
don't want to have to edit stuff out.
Thank you so much.
okay. I'll ask after the can.
Yeah. No, it's nothing like that serious, but
Okay.
this is whenever Megatron lets everyone know the startling realization that he's made, or revelation that he's made, that everyone on board was killed by the Decepticon Justice Division, and we get a very, very cool picture of Tarn with a chainsaw just sawing away at Overlord's head with the rest of the DJD kind of behind him, like looking on. And you know how much Tarn loved Overlord. Big fan of that kill. Like he was willing to leave the like Misfire and the scavengers behind to chase that kill. And we kind of start piecing things together, like whenever he left. As to
I also love the Thunderclash font for the Decepticon Justice Division.
oh yeah.
It's like I don't know. There's something about the lettering and just like
The big blow up, like bold.
yeah, like if this were animated, Megatron would be talking, and then it would be like it would flash to this this beautifully drawn flashback panel, and then it like there'd be music playing after he says the Deceptic Justice Division.
I like to think it would be like a bunch of like wah pedal guitar music, like some porn music. That to me, that's what it is.
And
I don't like to just do voices. I'm kind of like you. I like to do tracks, like the sounds of things that are kind of going on. But that's just me. Like some of that like old like 70s action, that kind of stuff.
Oh
See,
hell
I was-
no!
I was
fit that. Oh,
I was going in a complete direction. Like
Oh
it was
yeah, you
going
were
to be
going for some dynamic like.
it was like
badass.
an operatic like chorus as like Tarn is chainsawing off.
The Empyrean Suite. I don't know if you guys have heard it. There's someone on YouTube that has. Now I don't know if that particular, thing like existed before this, but someone on YouTube has like put together like essentially what they think that the Empyrean Suite would sound like, and it does. It sounds like super fucking scary. And it does sound really cool. If I can remember, like I'll include it in the show notes because I'll go and look it up after we get done recording. But like just to kind of check it out, to kind of hear what the DJD listens to when they're torturing and killing people, and also I believe Magnus was a fan of it as well.
Yeah, because Swerve mentions it was one of his favorite pieces of music when he's on the operating table under the death clock.
Right. So, But yeah, that's it. I think the only thing that this whole like big Decepticon Justice Division thing is missing is a little trademark logo. Just put that right
Yeah.
at the end. I think that would be. Thought that would have been funny. Would have been a nice inclusion.
You know what? Gone with their music and it would go perfect with it for them to be a DOJ, the Imperial March. How fucked up would that be? That'd be
Yeah.
fucked up. Or instrument destruction. Yeah.
Oh, you talk about
Yeah.
the Vince
It would
DiCola.
go perfect.
Yeah.
I-
That would
Drink
that'd be
about
cool.
the sky.
So everyone starts kind of imagining, what it would have been like, to have been there whenever the DJD got on board, which was pretty scary. But then Ravage sniffs out something else, the Magnus armor, and we see this little bitty red light flashing, and then we see like Megatron's kind of peering in, and you see this kind of red haze over the next panel, and you see the letters REC, which often stands for recording, and then Megatron's like, well, look what we got here. Talking about, and then he kind of throws some shade onto Tarn. He's like, looks like Tarn's getting a little sloppy. So
So I like how Megatron sounds like Turnerhead.
yeah,
Like, whoa, Tarn's getting a little sloppy.
dude,
Now I'm
that
gonna have
guy
my
is so fun to
question.
drink with. But go ahead.
The guy who does
Hi.
voice.
Yeah, that guy's a trip.
Oh man, that'd be a good time. Oh, that was some weird feedback. No, so I'm gonna ask my question now. Who or what do you hear when Tarn speaks?
Ooh, good question.
Because I mean, he's the well-spoken, super what's the word? Monologue-y leader of the Decepticon Justice Division.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid of things that I hear. Like I know I know it was either Roberts or Milne or someone's, they mentioned who they thought like in their head Tarn sound like, and that's not the route that I'm going, but I could see it, and I guess we'll talk about that after this, but I kind of think of like a Corey Burton, but doing maybe just Megatron.
Okay.
But maybe with a little mixed in with Shockwave, but kind of like maybe even kind of with an English accent.
Okay, like a little subdued animated Megatron.
Yeah, that's kind of I was trying to put it in my head because it's not a voice. It's a voice that I've heard, but I don't know who, and I was trying to compare it to some other stuff. That's what I hear basically.
That's funny because I hear Autobot Megatron as like Corey Burton Megatron.
Right.
Like you hear Tarn. And a lot of people on the boards have said David Keith, who...
I thought he was Keith David.
Oh, jeez, don't make me look it up.
Spawn, basically
I'm gonna go look
Spawn
up.
from the HBO animated...
Or Goliath from
or
Gargoyles.
the Arbiter from Halo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my answer to that question is that, and it's probably because I'm a ridiculously stupid Transformers animated fan, but I hear him as a menacing, like a little more edgy animated Optimus, because David Kay did Optimus's voice in animated. So, just that kind of youngish voice, but like just with a little more wear. Because I mean, he is the number one Megatron fanboy, so that would make sense if he sounds a little young.
Right. Yeah, that's true too. Walter, you got a voice in mind for Tarn?
Yeah, this Voice actor from who did Megatron and Transformers animated.
Okay, so you guys both are at the same wavelength. I like that.
We're going both going on the Corey Burton thing, yeah.
And the other one be, I could picture Scott McNeil doing it.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Will evil what's his name? I'm terrible with these names.
Well, let's see. He did Dinobots, Silverbolt, Rat Trap,
Silverbolt, the wolf.
Silverbolt. Okay, yeah.
The Wolf Eagle guy.
The fucking experiment, yeah.
The white guy who claims he's part Native American's wet dream. The Wolf Eagle.
God, that's true. Oh, wow.
Oh man, I'm going to hell.
That's his spirit animal.
So, did you say Keith David or did I say Keith David?
You mentioned Keith David.
I win.
Yep. No. You said David Keith. I said Keith.
Oh, god damn it, I lost. Okay.
Oh, yes, I win. I don't know what we're winning and losing, but
You win a drink at TFCon if we both go, which I don't know if I'm going.
yeah, man, that's it kind of bums me out because it's it's about a month away, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, it's that'd be cutting it super close. But have fun to everyone who's going.
Wait, you're not going?
Probably not. Just a lot of it just depends. A lot of it's a money situation. So that, and I couldn't find anyone to carpool with. Like Deluxe says, I can travel in his carry-on, but I don't know how that's gonna work out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I kind of because Deluxe is in a group chat with a bunch of other people who are located in like Wisconsin, Ohio area. So like I'm like Deluxe, that's a little out of the way for Deluxe to carpool, and then I was like, oh yeah, he's down in Alabama, so
No, he's in Arkansas, but close enough.
Whatever. It's the fucking South. Like I'm such an arrogant Yank.
For being located in Florida. Right?
Yeah, I'm like whatever. I'm like Chicago till I die. All right. But no, actually, I don't know if you. No, never mind. That's logistically stupid. Like if you drive out to Florida, and then...
yeah, because like the thing is, I'll rent a car like I did for BotCon last year. Just because like I don't think my 01 Camaro can make it, but like that's honestly the cheaper form of travel, opposed to spending $400 or $500 on airplane tickets. It's just nah.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I it's unlikely that I'm gonna go just based on money wise, but if I do, I'm gonna try to Uber up there, like as in. I'm going to drive.
You're literally gonna work your way up there.
I'm gonna work my way up the coast to DC from.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah, that would be pretty smart. I think.
Yeah, but
I don't know. Like shout out to Van B. I don't want to just throw his last name out there. He lives, I think, in like Alabama or Mississippi, because we were talking about TFCon last year, and I think he was driving up, and I wasn't able to make it last year either. So I don't know. Maybe I can get in touch with him. It's been since I've seen him or heard from him. So
Are you talking about the TFCon that came to Chicago?
last year,
year ago?
yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the one in 2014, the Chicago TFCon in 2014. So
Yeah, I was there.
I was too. But I really wanted to visit DC. Like it's the nation's capital and all that, so I wanted to check it out. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see in a month. So
Dakota wanted to egg the White House.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's supposed to be a surprise.
So when is HasCon? Who came up here with that damn name? HasCon?
Two or 3 weeks away, and apparently they're getting desperate. But I mean, that's neither here nor there, I guess.
Are you talking about the Groupon deal for like 50?
Yes. Like, even out of all the clearance box sets and shit from the previous license holder, like never not once did they clearance out the stuff before the convention. I don't know, man. It's just Not a good sign.
Yeah.
I don't think the bean counters are going to be too happy. And it seems like counters are putting on this convention more than, than anyone else. But either way, if not TFCon USA this year, then next year. There's two other like shows that for sure want to try to, but we'll see.
Well, you're hearing it first, their audience, and you're hearing it from me. TFCon will return back to Chicago.
Oh man, I have no doubt it'll be in Chicago every other year. It makes sense,
Yep.
But
Have it down in Orlando.
dude, Orlando would be way more doable for me too. I think it's only like 10 hours. Maybe not even that. I don't know. It's been a while since I've driven to Florida, so either way.
I think I made it to Shreveport in like 10 hours when I drove from Tampa a couple of years ago.
Holy shit! I didn't even know you visited.
Yeah, I mean this was before I knew you existed, so
Yeah.
no bad.
Well, I mean, she hit me up.
Yeah, next if I ever make my way out there, I will definitely hit you up and we'll go do some meth and get drunk.
Do some meth, eat some crawfish, and get wasted. That's all there is to do here.
Get some of that quality bathtub crank.
Whew, get some of that fucking bath salt. But or no, you would have to bring the bath salt, wouldn't you? Because didn't that shit happen in Florida a couple of years ago?
Yeah, it happened in Miami.
Yeah. So, but enough about drugs and more about Nightbeat. So Nightbeat, Nightbeat's like everyone's trying to make up, up from down from all this. They're sort of like giving poor Rewind the ringer, as to like what happened, what went on, tell us about it, this, that. And Nightbeat's trying to figure out. He's like, well, we thought this was the Lost Light from the future, but this is kind of tripping me out. He was talking about how Crosscut told them that he was still writing his play called Information Creep, and this poster, they're looking at the poster of it from the last issue. He says, and it opened a few weeks after the accident, and that's whenever they kind of talk about the first accident from issue 1. So still kind of playing back on that very ominous issue 1 ending. And anyway, it shows the premiere is Second Cycle 3819. So it definitely, like, they're starting to kind of put things together here. From there, Rewind explained to them what really went down. I believe he talked about Chrome Dome too. What he made Chrome Dome do. Now, have we found out why the DJD were called here yet? Or did I skip that on accident?
Hold on. We haven't yet.
Okay, so it's coming up. Cool. But essentially, this explanation has to do with the quantum engines and how no one understands quantum travel and quantum this and quantum that. And the Nautica, she's like okay with it, and she's a sponge of information. She's like, well, whenever the malfunction happened, there were two, the quantum engines narrowed down two possible outcomes, but it couldn't separate, which one it was. So it essentially chose both, and so you had double, two of the lost lights, one, since issue 2. And then this particular lost light, which explains why, like, Skids wasn't there or anything like that. And, they talked about some of the differences that happened on this particular lost light. Like, whenever they found the Spark Eater, Rodimus didn't get away in time. So that piece of his head that was missing, looked like it was cut off, got trapped inside, the quantum engine whenever, it spooled up. And so he died apparently, like, very early on. And we see Drift giving him the Spectralist funeral, which does look really cool. Man, I want a freaking toy of More Than Meets the Eye Drift so bad, dude. Shit makes me sick every time I see it. It looks so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And, then that's whenever Rewind talks about the DJD knocking on their doorstep. Or is this... I believe, didn't the Galactic Council kind of stop their ship in its tracks? I was pretty sure like that's what. Or no. The Galactic Council. Never mind. That's,
No, they showed up after the DJD, but
right.
uh,
Yep, I'm getting too far ahead.
hey, really quick, going back to issue 2. The panel where they're imagining what the DJD did. I really wanted an exploding world head from somebody, just based on Kaon using Voss blow out World's head, which nobody ever made for me. So I'm sad.
Bummer. I don't know why people hate Whirl. I think he's misunderstood. I kind of like the guy.
I don't hate him, but I love scene specific accessories, and I guess that goes back to the Mech Ideas Geminis that came with
twist?
the that came with the Last Stand of the Wreckers damaged head.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, give me accessories that have absolutely one use, and that's all.
But I'm right there with you though. But some of these accessories, some of these things are, more. Everyone has their favorite of just like the one thing, but anyways, we see the DJD just kind of tearing everyone apart, and this is when they kind of presented Chrome Dome and Rewind sort of with a choice. The choice was that Rewind would be spared if Chrome Dome forced himself to forget about him, or that they would spare both of them. I can't remember, but basically Chrome Dome injected himself and forced himself to forget about about him and Rewind, and that's whenever they shoved his Nemo needles into his face, and it looks like them off of his fingers.
Yeah, Voss snapped off each of his needles and jammed them in his face.
Yeah, dude, Voss is brutal. I mean, they're all brutal, but I feel like Voss more so. But
I love them because I don't know. I guess I'm a visual guy. I love the recording of the DJD like tearing up everybody, and Tarn is leaping through the air, flipping over, shooting Cyclonus in the head with a Voss, and it's very reminiscent of Optimus Prime in the '86 animated movie.
Just a lot more fucked up.
I can only imagine Tarn like transforming, like rolling through the Lost Light, transforming, flipping over, shooting Cyclonus in the head, and then shooting down or mowing down like other Lost Lighters with Voss and him.
And then transforming again, and then doing a couple of more flips and jumps, and transforming at least 36 times.
And transforming while flipping, and then transforming to land on his feet. Like,
exactly.
I like how Riptide calls the quantum foam silly string.
So, there was an exchange of words between Skids and Megatron, but let's see, who was it? It was Nautica. They were going through Brainstorm's lab, and we see Brainstorm without his faceplate, which looks very strange. Like, I don't know, just the shit coming down from like below his cheek, where I guess where cheekbones would be, into his jaw. I can see why he wears a faceplate. You know what I mean? He doesn't have a pretty face. But Nightbeat was just like, I think we know what caused the DJ, who called the DJD, because the Storm's faceplate has a Decepticon logo. And everyone gets pretty upset about it, and, Nightbeat was like, did you know about this? And Megatron was like, no, man, that's compartmentalization. I couldn't just know about all of our, undercover agents. So, and he was like, for what it's worth, he's not our usual type either, which was funny.
Also, it's also ironic that Nightbeat is upset, I thought, of a traitor being in their midst.
Yeah, right?
Because he punches the wall and he's like, traitor!
Yeah, it's certainly... You would think that he's a team player, right? All about the common cause. But whatever. Nightbeat's a douchebag.
I also like Nautica being like in denial of Brainstorm's allegiance.
Yeah, because they were kind of hitting it off pretty good at the beginning of this story arc, or the last story arc technically. He was I think he was kind of inventing things for her. He made her. Yeah, he made her in.
He made her the wrench. Yep.
Yeah.
I also read her lines like Padme from episode 3 when she when she found out Anakin had turned to the dark side, and it's so cheesy and said, I'm just like, no, that's been planted. Like, George Lucas, you couldn't direct yourself out of a paper bag if you tried.
Yeah, but now it's Disney, so everything's good.
Oh, the directing certainly is better.
Basically, to summarize this last, this kind of, well, not last part, but the next part, essentially, Nautica is like, well, I'm, essentially, I'm basically the only one here that knows anything about quantum engines, but I can't fit through there, and Rewind's like, well, I'm tiny, so I can go, and Megatron's like, well, I can, mass displace myself, so I can help you. So we see Megatron shrink, or we see giant Megatron, regular big Megatron shrink to to Rewind size. I didn't know how to fucking word that, man. Like, it tripped me out. And so they're opening up the quantum engines, and it was neat and different seeing Rewind, Megatron kind of like working together here. Just a very unusual like pair. And that's in Rewind before he's about to do this, because he was very he was kind of accepting of the fact that like he was probably not going to make it out, all things considering, like to get the others back. So he just sort of thought, well, whatever, I won't remember all this, it'll be good. And he was just like, so on your Lost Light, he wanted to know if him and Chrome Dome were still going strong, and that's whenever Megatron was just like, yeah, I mean, you guys are, inseparable. So Rewind flips the switch, and then we see a big, bright ball of light, and everyone's back on the Lost Light. Hooray! Looks like everyone's kind of palling it up and partying, and you got Skids and Nightbeat like, tell him, or what do we tell him or whatever, and, you're kind of wondering, like, what that's all about. And they tell him to go up, basically like outside on the ship, or get his Magna boots on or whatever, and go outside, go up top. There's someone waiting on you. That's whenever he sees Rewind sitting there, which was nice. It was good to see how Rewind was going to be written back into the story. So, and then we get the I consider it the kind of famous panel of Chrome Dome, like, being further away, and then them just kind of like scooting like closer to each other. So it was like, oh, it was an all moment, or as the internet says, fucking gay robot moment.
I just liked it when it was just shooting, fighting.
I liked them when they fought and cussed.
Oh man, dude, it's so funny because I sent a little short video clip to a chat in. And I was watching the '86 movie, and I muted it when Ironhide started talking to Optimus Prime, and I just did my own voiceover. I was like, every time I look into a monitor, Prime, my circuits, and then Shockwave like pops up on screen, and I'm like, fuck you, Shockwave.
That's like, accurate. That's the Ironhide, I think, that we all can agree on.
Yeah. He would just be so preoccupied with like his hate of Shockwave sitting in his tower.
Yeah. So that wasn't the only thing that kind of got left intact from this other Lost Light. We see that Nightbeat still, the Nightbeat is trying to make sense of Rewind still being able to be there with Nautica, and was it Nightbeat I think it was Nightbeat that said he was tempted to say it was the power of love that kept Rewind that brought Rewind into this universe, and then
Yeah.
he brings it from like cringe level back down to normal, and he's like, except that doesn't explain why I've managed to hold on to this, and he had the briefcase.
I also
and it,
like,
like-
really.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can't remember if they had already talked about like doing getting cornering Brainstorm and doing something about him, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, Ravage and Megatron are talking about it, saying how Megatron needs to tell Rodimus he has a Decepticon on board, and Ravage says, "So do you?" And he's like, "Don't worry, I'm happy to make my way back to Earth." And Megatron's like, "Well, you could stay." And Ravage is like, "As your prisoner?" And he's like, "As my ally." And it's cool because Megatron says, "You've seen the dark side of the Decepticon cause. Do you still want to be a part of it?" And Ravage has this confused kitty look on his face.
Doll.
He's like, "Hmm?" He's like, "I don't know if I'll still be a part of this."
Yeah. And
then
that's
we have-
something that's cool about Megatron, man, is he's always making everyone around him think. Because he's always thinking, he's always doing stuff.
Actually, it's called, they're showing him his intelligence. They're, what do you say, being oppressed for so many years, and they're bringing up this character, which a lot of fandom don't like, but I like it.
No, I mean, Autobot Megatron is easily one of the greatest, if not the greatest, piece of fiction that Transformers has gotten.
Probably the best decision that they ever made with IDW Megatron, honestly.
Well, can I tell you something? They took, I'm going to say it like this, and I think I know where they got that there from. It was kind of funny. They took it from Amazing Spider-Man when the whole Peter Parker and Doc Ock switch happened, and look how that turned out.
Are you talking about like
Doc
Doc
Ock
Ock
was-
being a good guy?
Yeah. So I got a funny feeling they got that idea from there.
It's possible they could have drawn it from a lot of other stuff too. This not being the first technically good Megatron that we've seen. There was Shattered Glass that showed up a few years prior to that as well.
Yeah, but that was from a different universe.
Oh yeah, but they're the same.
Yeah. But
Well, also, I mean, go ahead.
I'm a strong believer they got that from there. And because it went from Amazing to Superior and it worked out so well, IDW figured, okay, let's take Megatron. And you know what? This is probably what IDW said there too. That, we're going to piss some old people off.
Uh-huh.
We're going to piss them off. Let's see what happens. And you got to admit, it sold pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still a discussion point, to this day. Like whenever you get the, the G1 bros, because I used to use the term G1ers.
The G1 Bros.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, think about it. They're like, hate my gay robots, and like all that. And I mean, Megatron and Autobot, like they're fucking retards. Like, I'm just
not
calling
wrong.
everybody I've ever had a discussion on Facebook about gay robots and Autobot Megatron. Fuck you. I'm firing shots all issue this week.
Dude, it works, man. It works.
Trying to drum up controversy for people to go like our Facebook page.
Yeah. I was gonna talk about it during the outros. But yeah. We have a Facebook page. Hooray!
Hey,
After it only took 10 issues to make it, but
we're on our.
funny. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say we're on our way to a legit podcast.
slowly but surely.
But you know what's funny? Some of these guys kill me. They bitch about, well, my bots ain't supposed to be this. It ain't supposed. Who gives a shit? It's about storytelling and enjoyment. It's just like when they start becoming, your bot's supposed to be this. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
I'll be honest,
Uh,
man. As a Beast Wars fan, and I love Beast Wars. I hold Beast Wars and the IDW comics to like literally. I hold them on the same level. Like to me, no one is better than the other. I enjoy them both equally as just great pieces of fiction. But if there were ever another telling of Beast Wars, I wouldn't want it to be the exact same as the tune. Like make it different, make it unique. That's what I would want. That's just me though.
I don't know. I had an interaction with somebody recently where they're like, they basically that like IDW ruined G1 for them, and I'm like, and I was like, I'm like, would you say they raped your childhood? And like, he did not respond to that, but I laughed because like it's the same thing with like the Bay movies. It's like people can't compartmentalize their Transformers. It has to be some large, amalgamous like thing for them. They can't have G1 and Beast Wars and IDW. So like the Bay movies ruined Transformers for them, and IDW and its politics, because heaven forbid, there'd be something other than good guys and bad guys shooting at each other.
Oh, dude, it's a breath of fresh air. Like, I don't give a shit what anybody says. It is a breath of fresh air.
That's all right. It's just pathetic when you hear grown adults put my child born into this world. It's the truth, dude. Some of these people are so fucked up. And that's the reason I don't chime on in. And that's the reason I laugh at some of the shit you guys say up there on the boards. I just laugh up here at it because it's like, you know what? You're just proving there to me. Actually, you guys are exposing them for who they are, man. Some of these dudes got some mental problems.
Out of all the flavors, they choose salt.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, there's
go
ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying with the 11th anniversary of the 86 movie, or no, I'm sorry, 21st anniversary, 30th, 31st,
30th.
I can't. Okay, math is hard.
Almost as hard as the English language, man. I agree.
Well, I'm quite adept at using the English language.
I'm still
I guess
fucked up at it, so no.
I'm still fucked up. No, but people posting like the like, oh, it's the 31st anniversary of the 1986 movie, and I'm like, okay, that was the day my child was raped when I was a child, like way before Michael Bay ever made a movie. Like,
oh, whenever they introduced Rodimus the Kingslayer.
No, it's the shuttle scene, like.
Oh, dude, the Ironhide like getting shot and smoking out of the mouth.
See,
No, that was Prowl. That was Prowl.
No, Prowl. Yeah, like that was the scene. That was the scene that told my little 5-year-old mind like shit just got real. Like before my 5-year-old mind could articulate such thoughts.
You're not watching Saturday morning cartoons anymore. These people are fucking dying.
Like, I was just like, I'm like, oh my, why are his eyes red? What? Why is there smoke coming out of it?
What happened whenever Spike said shit?
I snickered like a 5-year-old because
dude, it's so funny. Like, I obviously wasn't around like during all that because I was born in '91. But when I bought the I think it's the 15th anniversary DVD. And there's a fun story behind that. I didn't buy it. A friend of mine bought it because he scratched up my Assassin's Creed 2 disc, and he didn't want to buy me Assassin's Creed 2. So he goes, "I found this. Will you accept this as a?" Because at the time, like on Amazon, that DVD was like stupid expensive because Shout hadn't re-released it yet or whatever. But I was like, okay.
It was by Rhino, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was one of the Rhino ones, and I had all the Shout like season 1 through 4 DVDs, but I was just missing the movies. That was the only thing I hadn't seen yet. And so I was going through and I was looking at all the the scene titles, and that particular scene was called Swear Word.
Oh yeah,
I was like, really?
I remember that.
Yeah, I thought that shit was funny. But anyways, keep going.
The chapter was called Swear Word.
Yeah, I was like, oh okay. But I guess kind of send us out, wrap us up.
Oh wait,
there's a second.
Oh, okay. Never mind. You're going into it. Never mind.
Oh yeah.
Go.
Thanks.
Proceed. No, because I thought you were going to wrap the show.
You thought I was just gonna like, man?
I'm like,
no,
oh,
we gotta leave it on
second
a cliffhanger.
epilogue.
So Brainstorm's kind of like, excuse me, pardon me, you mind if I get through? Sorry, thanks. Just like, because everyone's partying at Swerves because they just found out they were all, they were all alive again. Everybody not alive and disappeared. So he sits down and he's just like, man, it's so busy in here. And he's sitting with Atomizer. He's like, everyone's all happy that we're all back. Don't know what broke, but and I'll drink to that. And that's when Brainstorm, he's just like, yes, here's to fixing things. And that's whenever Atomizer's just like, hey, the rules say something, the rules say no briefcases. At that point, Brainstorm opens it up, he clicks the little things on it. It says, Brainstorm, you can't do that. And that's when Brainstorm's like, I'll let you in on a little secret. I can do whatever I damn well please. And he's standing there, very evil, kind of stoic look, and everyone in the bar is knocked out, unconscious, done, finished, finito. It looks like they're all dead. They're probably all dead, but we won't know until we cover the next arc of Against the Eye. So that's where we're stopping today. Everyone's dead again.
Again.
But I do kind of want to, like on the last issue of Information Creep, about a vat of Injects going missing from Swerves, which, we'll talk a little bit more about it later on, but I think maybe something had to do with that. But it was strange, of all the times he's opened his briefcase, and he's done it, subtly here and there, this one particular time, everybody dies, and the lights kind of go dim around them. But this is a really nice, I don't know, I like the way Brainstorm looks in this particular frame. Makes him look way badass. You know what I mean?
The coloring in this panel is really top notch. The lights are dimmed, and the only light really coming is from the Injects tubes.
Right. And and then there's, I don't know, I don't know who the colorist was on this. I don't know if it was Bertram or Perez. And I really should have looked, because they both do phenomenal jobs. And it could be someone else, but
it was Joanna LaFuente.
Really?
She's pretty talented.
She's
I'm not
super good. Yeah, like the energon that's kind of like going throughout his wings, and I think we saw that like on Rodimus as well a couple of issues back. And we see it here and there, and you get it in the Autobot logo. It reminds me, it's very Fall of Cybertron like. Where it's not just it's just it looks good. I've always been a fan of that. Always been a fan of it.
Yeah, that's kind of like her trademark almost. The energy effects, in all her artwork, it's what pops out.
Well, you know what? Female writers and artists are the most underrated. To me, they're underrated, because they don't get a lot of credit, and I think they should.
Without a doubt. I will say, Sarah Stone, I thought, and we'll cover it whenever we cover it. Was it Sarah Stone that did the Drift? Well, she did Wind, but did Drift as well.
What the Empire Stone or the miniseries?
Yeah, the Empire Stone.
I did not read that, honestly. So,
or was that a different Sarah? I can't remember. It was good. I'll have to. I'm sure we've got another 2 months before we get to that. But good stuff. It was good stuff. But this is really good artwork. Yeah, for real. I do agree. But that's it. That's we're done. So outros and all that. You can find us now on a few different forms of social media. You can check us out on Facebook. We are Information Creep. Will pop up. Or you can just go to facebook.com/Information Creep, all one word. We're also on Twitter at @info_creep. Use at Gmail if you'd like to, informationcreep@gmail.com. Shout out to the Table Network, where you can find awesome shows like Shattered Cast Uncut, Enter the Realm, Beers and Bolters 40K, Plastic Fanatics, Stasis Lock, Nerd Rage Radio, Toy Detox 8 Weeks, and several others. Also, shout out to Blackout and Shout. I've been giving them a listen. lately. We had Mike Kincaid on Stasis Lock, and it was cool talking to him. They're cool dudes. He's another comic guy, so that's always awesome. Spiros, anything you got for the outro? Where can people find you doing all your stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Spiros Galos. You can find me posting random things on the Toy Detox Twitter @_Toy Detox. We recently had an episode. We recently had an episode with all the interns on with Mickey because Tyler was on vacation. So it's always nice to get the ensemble shows. So you get to hear a couple different voices, and we definitely didn't talk about toys that much on that episode. So
Detox that episode.
Yeah, it was National Detox because it was right after Charlottesville weekend. So
Nice.
lots of toy material to cover in that episode. So give it a listen. It's episode 67, I want to say, or 76. Either way, listen to all of them because Toy Detox is an awesome. Yeah, Dakota covered all the Information Creep social media platforms, so I got nothing.
All right, Walter, man, anything you wanna say or shout out on the way out?
I gotta say a big shout out. Let's all hope that Greg gets better. Lately hasn't been feeling well. Gotta send out a shout out to you two guys for the spectacular job you guys do. Shout out to hardcore collectors. And to our new Facebook group post, Info Creep. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, we got a pretty decent amount in like the first day, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's all. That's our fault for not getting a Facebook page up soon enough. But hey, it's up. Go like it. Go check it out. We'll share some stuff. We got posts to the audio. We find the audio version, Creep, and the video form, the playlist for that. So you can check that out. As always, it's on the RealmOfCollectors.com website and the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel is where you're going to find the video. So until then, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later.